Hello there, Gabriel Clevenger here. Happy Resurrection Day. Many times we look forward to Easter as the beginning of spring, a chance for new beginnings and a different feel around us. But what I want to share with you today is how things that were just a certain way are coming undone. These will be contrasts between the events of the man and the woman in the Garden of Eden in Genesis and the events surrounding Jesus' death and resurrection in the Gospels. In a garden, the man and the woman were given the choice and disobeyed. Jesus, in a garden, is faced with the choice to obey or turn away and disobey. Jesus made the hard choice to obey. This is not just stretching the story. We see further after the choice had been made in Genesis, God comes to humanity in the garden for the man and the woman, and they step away and hide. Men came looking for Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane after he had made his choice, and God himself steps forward. When the man and the woman felt shame, they hid behind the trees of the garden. Jesus hangs on a tree for all to see. The man and the woman made a choice that brought toil and difficulty, one of the consequences of which was thorns. Genesis 3:18. So Jesus had to bear their choice as a crown of thorns. The man and the woman felt shame, so they went and did the best they knew how by fashioning fig leaves for clothes. When God found them, those garments were not good enough, so God had to make better ones for them. Genesis 3:21 tells us that God made garments of skin for them. Animals had to die for the shame of the man and the woman to be covered. In contrast, Jesus hung on the cross naked for shame not his own. We should not miss the significance of God having to be the first to shed blood in his new creation. The animal's blood was shed for the sin and shame of men and women, which is the prefiguring of the whole sacrificial order of sins requiring blood to be shed. Because sin brings death, not just figuratively, but literally. It was a mercy that God provided for the blood of animals to be given in exchange for the blood of men and women. But here, with Jesus, is the conclusion of the sacrificial order. Hebrews 7:27 tells us that Jesus offered the last sacrifice of himself. No longer animals that could not fully suffice, but his own body and blood, once and for all. But it's not just that Jesus took care of sins and puts everything back even. He did more. On the afternoon of Resurrection Day, Jesus comes alongside two people. There's something strange going on here. Luke tells us in chapter 24 of his gospel that they were prevented from recognizing Jesus. Even after walking on the road for at least a couple of hours and having the resurrected Jesus explain their own scriptures to them about what had to happen with the Messiah, these two who had followed and listened to Jesus still, strangely, can't recognize him. But then they get to Emmaus and they invite Jesus to eat with them. They sit down at a table and Jesus takes, blesses, breaks, and gives the food to them. And in that moment, Luke tells us their eyes were opened to who Jesus was. These are the same words that we read of the man and the woman in Genesis 3. Luke words this so that we hear Genesis 3 verse 7 here. That is where we read of Adam and Eve taking and eating something and their vision being changed also. Physical acts have spiritual effect. The difference here is that in Genesis, their eyes were open to sin, death, shame, brokenness. But here with Jesus, their eyes are open to forgiveness, life, hope, and resurrection. The person of Jesus, the breaking of the curse of sin. What God intended for creation had been broken and seemed lost. But all these things we see about Jesus show us that God has not given up on his plan for creation. For his creation to show out his glory. For it to be a place where his will is done with joy amongst those he has created to be like him, with sin no longer between us and him. There are ways that lives can get broken, mangled, not like what they were supposed to be. Maybe that is where you are right now. But I want you to know that is not the end. Your shame, your brokenness, your mistakes, Jesus took them all with him to the cross, and with his resurrection proved that those things don't have the final say. Sin, death, shame, those things are all in the process of being shed away, just like the blindness from those two disciples' eyes in Emmaus at the end of Resurrection Day. Forgiveness of sins is a big deal, but it is just the beginning of following Jesus. And make no mistake, what we are talking about is following Jesus. He invites us all to leave our sin and shame and follow him to the redemption of all of his creation. And in what may seem curious to us, but as real as can be, Jesus chooses to do this first on Resurrection Day by sharing a table with those two disciples. The early church knew they had a lot of work to do, but the table was still central to them. We are inviting you to join this way of Jesus, to see how he forgives and leads and teaches and makes us by joining us at the table. Be watching here for your chance to join the work of the Lord with the people of the Lord at the table of the Lord. God bless you. Happy Resurrection Day, and I'll see you soon.